بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
What is the story of Asiyah? It mentions here, right? That before Asiyah, the maidservant of Fir'aun accepted Islam. The maidservant. And the incident has been mentioned here, right? In Tafsir Ibn Kathir. That the maidservant was combing the hair of the daughter of Fir'aun. She was combing the hair of the daughter of Fir'aun one day. So the comb fell out of her hand. And when the comb fell out of her hand, she said, "Ta'isa man kafara billah. Ta'isa man kafara billah." You know, like when somebody, when you drop something, you say, "Oh, darn," right? You drop something, you say. So she dropped it and she said, "Ta'isa man kafara billah." Cursed be on the one who disbelieves in Allah. So when the daughter heard this, she was a chip off the old block, as they say. Exactly like her father, kafira. So she said, "What did you say? Ta'isa man kafara billah? Cursed be on the one who believes in Allah? Do you have a God besides my father? Do you worship someone other than my father? Huh? وَلَكِ رَبٌّ غَيْرُ أَبِي?" So he said, "Naam, Rabbi wa Rabbu Abik wa Rabbu kulli shay'in illah." Yes, my Lord and your father's Lord and the Lord of everything is Allah. So when she heard it, she just smacked her one time. Hardcore kafir. She just smacked her one time. And then she ran to her father and told her father that, this woman, she's a believer in the God of Moses. So then she was brought. And she said, "Is this true?" Right? "Ta'budina rabban ghayri?" Do you worship a Lord besides me? So then she said, قالت نعم ربي وربك ورب كل شيء الله وإياه أعبد. Yes, your Lord and my Lord and the Lord of everything is Allah, and Him alone do I worship. So what did he do? فعذبها فرعون وأوتد لها أوتادا. Fir'aun, he started to torture her. And he put some spikes in the ground and tied her. وَأَرْسَلَ عَلَيْهَا الْحَيَّاتِ. And he let loose snakes on her. فَكَانَتْ كَذَلِكَ. And she was firm on her iman though. She did not change. فَأَتَى عَلَيْهَا يَوْمًا. Whole day passed like this, tied up in the sun. فَقَالَ مَا أَنْتِ مُنْتَهِيَةً. Are you not going to desist from this? Are you not going to turn back from these statements that you're making? فَقَالَتْ لَهُ رَبِّي وَرَبُّكَ وَرَبُّ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ إِلَّهِ. My Lord and your Lord and the Lord of everything is Allah. So she stayed firm. So then what did Fir'aun say? He'll say, bring her son. Bring her son. So this maidservant, she had a son. He says, إِنِّي ذَابِحٌ إِبْنَكَ فِي فِيكَ إِن لَمْ تَفْعَلِي. If you don't turn away, I will slaughter your son in front of your eyes. So what did she say? اِقْضِ مَا أَنْتَ قَاضٍ. Do whatever you're going to do. Because my Lord and your Lord and the Lord of everything is Allah, and I only worship Him. So she slaughtered one son. And while that, it mentions that the ruh of that child, subhanallah, is a miracle of Allah. فَقَالَ لَهَا أَبْشِرِي يَا أَمَّا فَإِنَّ لَكِ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ مِنَ الثَّوَابِ كَذَا وَكَذَا. Glad tidings to you, O my mother. Don't turn back from your faith, because Allah has prepared for you a very great reward in paradise. Don't turn away from your faith. فَصَبَرَتْ. So she had patience. ثُمَّ أَتَى عَلَيْهَا فِرْعَوْنَ يَوْمًا آخَرَ. Another day he came on her and said to her the same thing, and she replied the same thing, and he brought her other son. And he said, "If you're not going to desist, then I'm going to slaughter your other son in front of you." So she said, "Do whatever you're going to do. I'm not going to leave my faith." So then again, from this child also, she said, "Isbiri ya amma fa inna laki inda Allahi min al-thawabi kada wa kada." Have patience, O my mother, because Allah Ta'ala has this ajr and thawab for you. Allah has prepared for you Jannah. Allah has prepared for you great reward. So she had faith. وَقَبَضَ اللَّهُ رُوحَ إِمْرَأَةِ خَازِرِ فِرْعَوْنَ وَكَشَفَ الْغِطَاءَ عَنْ ثَوَابِهَا وَمَنْزِلَتِهَا. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in that condition of torture and in that condition of persecution, Allah took her soul, her ruh, and showed her place of a reward and her maqam in paradise. And Allah Ta'ala also showed this to the wife of Fir'aun. Seeing this torture, instead of taking her away from Islam, it gave her more iman in Islam. And the wife of Fir'aun also started to believe. حتى رأت يعني هذا العذاب فازدادت إيمانا ويقينا وتصديقا. The wife of Fir'aun, seeing this whole incident in front of her eyes, right? It increased her in iman and in certainty and in faith. فَأَطَّلَعَ اللَّهُ فِرْعَوْنَ عَلَى إِيمَانِهَا. So somehow, Fir'aun came to find out that her, his wife, Asiyah, she's accepted faith, she's accepted Islam. So then he gathered his courtiers and said, right, مَا تَعْلَمُونَ مِنْ آسِيَا بِنْتِ مُزَاحِمٍ. What do you people think about Asiyah? He asking his court people, his parliament. So they said, فَأَثْنَوْا عَلَيْهَا. They said, oh, mashallah, very wonderful person. She's a very good woman. So then she said, فَقَالَ لَهُمْ إِنَّهَا تَعْبُدُ غَيْرِي. Don't you know that she worships a God besides me? So then they said, اقتلها. Then kill her. So similarly, he put these spikes in the ground and tied her to those spikes, and he started to torture her. And he was torturing her over and over again in the sun, leaving her out in the sun and torturing her. To such an extent that mentions that كانت امرأة فرعون تعذب في الشمس, that the wife of Fir'aun would be tortured in the sun. فإذا انصرف عنها, when they would go away from her, أظلتها الملائكة بأجنحتها. The angels would cover her with their wings and put shade over her with their wings. وكانت ترى بيتها في الجنة. And while she's being tortured, she's making dua. رب ابن لي عندك بيتا في الجنة ونجني من فرعون وعمله ونجني من القوم الظالمين. While she's in this situation, she's making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Oh Allah, give me a place with you in paradise. Oh Allah, I want to be with you. Give me a place with you in paradise. ونجني من فرعون وعمله. Save me from Fir'aun and his kufr. ونجني من القوم الظالمين. And save me from these evil people. And what had happened is that for 3 days in a row, same thing, Fir'aun came to her and would torture her and try to make her desist from her faith. But what did she do? She stayed firm upon that. She stayed firm upon that. And Fir'aun finally said, you give me no choice. You give me no choice. So what they did, they said, take the biggest stone that you can find. Take the biggest boulder that you can find. Take it to the high point and drop it on her. So that's exactly what they did, is that they took the stone, they took it to the highest place, and when they dropped it on her, the ulama mentioned that فَلَمَّا أَتَوْهَا رَفَعَتْ بَصَرَهَا إِلَى السَّمَاءِ فَأَبْصَرَتْ بَيْتَهَا فِي الْجَنَّةِ فَمَضَتْ عَلَى قَوْلِهَا وَانْتَزَعَتْ رُوحَهَا وَأُلْقِيَتِ الصَّخْرَةُ عَلَى جَسَدٍ لَيْسَ فِيهِ رُوحٌ. أخرجه الطبري. He mentions that when they brought this biggest stone that they could find, and she kept on saying that my Lord is Allah and I will never turn away from my faith. So when they threw this upon her, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took her ruh before that stone could even fall upon her. Allah took her ruh out of her body. And when the stone fell upon a body without a soul, and she was in her place in Jannah. Allah showed her place in Jannah before she passed away. This was the sacrifice of these women. And this is a very, very important story to remember, especially when you go through difficulties. Because sometimes we think that the whole world is collapsing on you, whereas your problems are nothing in comparison to the people before.